Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sister Confessions, episode 19. We have Michelle and Desiree here. How are you, Michelle?
Hello. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. It's daylight savings and it feels like 2 in the morning, although it's whatever time it is, 7 o'clock at night here. It's been a long week.
Daylight savings, I'm sorry, is just 1 hour, but
It's dark so
you
early.
just gave a big difference right there.
Defense.
You gave a big difference because you said it's 2. It feels
Feel
like 2 and it's 7.
Yes, it feels so late. JR went to work this morning. He was like, I went to work and it was dark, and I've come home and it's dark. I'm like, "Oh."
Yes, that's what sucks about that part. Um, I've never seen the sun. You're at work all day.
Especially if you're inside, no windows and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you doing good?
I'm doing good. It is at the time of our recording, it is right before Thanksgiving. We're a few days before Thanksgiving. I I think I'm ready. I'm ready for Thanksgiving. I think I mentioned this before, but the holidays used to stress me out, and I would try so hard. I remember loving the holidays as a kid because
You
I
have to.
didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom. She did all the work, had no idea. But now and it's been stressful as an adult, the holidays, but I don't see it that way anymore. I see it as it's always works out
Whatever happens, happens.
and
It'll be okay.
whatever happened, yes. And focusing more on creating memories for the little ones.
I love it. Awesome. Good. Hey, something that I wanted to talk about was expectations. So this episode is going to be about expectations. My husband and I are doing this marriage class. It's a 14-week course. This is our second time doing it. We're going to become pros. And the topic we had last week was expectations. And that was such a challenging topic for me the first time around. And I was dreading talking about it this time around. Because I feel like expectations are super hard for me because I feel like I really didn't have very many expectations of my husband. And last time the whenever we went through this, no one believed me. And I was like, okay, when you say you expect something from someone, if they don't do it, then you're disappointed or you're hurt or you're angry or you're mad. I didn't have any of those expectations or feelings for him. Like, I just was super grateful. I'm a grateful person. I just would focus on the positive, and like, if he didn't do something, he did all these other things. And so I didn't probably okay, I did have a few expectations, but I feel like they're very basic. Like, he needs to take out the trash. I do expect him to do that. Like, I'm not doing that. He needs to do it. Yeah.
Was that discussed or was that you just saying, "Oh, he's a man and he takes out the trash," or how was that an expectation from you? And was it discussed?
It was just how it went. He took care of all the outside of the house. I took care of all the inside of the house. He did all the yard work. So that's just how we were. And so I came to expect that. I don't think I've ever mowed the lawn once in 18 years that we've been married. Uh, my son takes out the trash now. And so anyways, it was a really interesting conversation last time. So I was kind of dreading it this time around because it is people were baffled that I didn't have expectations. Now I said I did have needs and desires, like things that I wished, but I feel like things that you hope for is a hope. not an expectation. Like I hope for it, but I didn't expect it from him. And then one of the guys in the group, he was like, "Well, why wouldn't what your needs or hopes or wishes be an expectation?" So I'm like, "Oh my god!" It was like
Mm.
cranking my brain. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, just expectations in relationships, but also like in life in general. Go in
Yeah.
different relationships. We all have different expectations of different people, um, our kids, events. We when we go to things. I'm going to read a little bit. It says everyone, and I'm going to tweak it. This is related to marriage, but everyone has expectations. Go expectations. Excuse me. Expectations of your spouse, yourself, and how life will go. We were aware of some of these expectations before marriage related to your spouse, but probably discovered many only after they went unmet.
Mm.
And every time both conversations, it's really interesting because no one never, when they sat down, they said, okay, these are my expectations coming out of the marriage or going into a marriage. These are my expectations in parenting, that I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. Like, I don't think a lot of people have those super important discussions, especially if you
Yes.
do have expectations. Like, well,
Yeah.
expect you pick up the wet towel from the floor, or whatever. So, that, yeah, expectations. You want to talk about expectations?
Yeah. I think that's so true. Let's dissect each one because you listed quite a few, but
Just a few.
um, yes. So for marriage, like what you said, it was assumed. I think I expect a lot of expectations. If it's not discussed, it's an assumption that these things, because you have a image or a goal or expectation in your head, and you just assume. We're talking about marriage right now because that's where we started off. You assume that your partner knows because you guys are together, and because you're together, that person must know what you're thinking,
Mine.
which isn't true. But uh, so when you mentioned he just does the outside and I do the inside, and that was never um,
Discussion.
a discussion. So does he expect the house clean all the time? Since you're in charge of the inside, does he and do you expect the out like it could be really messy and you're like, well, he's in charge of that, so I don't care. Or he's in charge of that. I expect it to be clean all the time. I mean, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of branches that you could go out off of that. Um, you don't have to answer that. I'm just unless you want to. I'm
Well,
just
and also that's right. What are
elaborating
those
on that.
expectations? Yeah, like what are your uh what is the word? Expectations. Your like baseline or your goal or what, yeah, specific. Yeah, I
The
don't care.
standards.
If it's a mess outside and he hasn't mowed the lawn, I know it's because our life has been busy. I don't never get upset because personally though, but and for him, if I don't clean the house, he helps clean the house. So it's not 100%. It's not 50-50 in that way.
I see. But it was never discussed. It just
No.
is.
Yeah.
And I don't believe I've had conversations with my husband of expectations on roles, on you are in charge of this and I am in charge of that. Similarly, like what you're saying, I know that I'm in charge of the house just because I'm female, and I don't mean to say that in any way of gender roles or anything, but I just said it. But what I mean is, but what I mean is, I don't. I mean, it just naturally goes that way. But I do have a bad back, so I hire help for that, and because it is my area, I make sure it gets done. If I can't do it, I get help to do it. It was never discussed that way, it just happens. Um, Similarly, like what you said, so my husband does the yard and things, but when I can or if I can, I do help in that area, making it a family thing, not saying, oh, this weekend I'll do the yard and you do the house or whatever. It's just I try to do it to make it like a family thing versus this is your thing, but it's not discussed. It's not a thing that this is your role and this is my role. It just happened that way, like you're saying. Um, Other expectations too, though, I um I don't think I think they should be discussed, and I don't think these discussions are being had in relationships. And I don't think a lot of these expectations are known, are
And our
it's
awareness.
like subconscious. It's subconscious. Like I was brought up a certain way, and he was brought up another way, and we just think that's how life is, and we don't even know we're expecting these things. We just think that's how life is. Like, I'm just gonna because I'm talking about how we were brought up. So let's similarly, like in our house, us growing up, um, our parents would fight a lot. So some people growing up in that may think, oh, well, fighting means you love each other.
Mhm.
So I need to be in relationships where we don't get along. That means we love each other. Um, I didn't come to that conclusion, but I'm just saying there may be uh, people that grow up that way and see that and say, okay, well, and then they start dating people and they don't even know that that's their expectation. For them to receive love, it means that they need to be arguing with their partner all the time. That means they love each other because they're so passionate. Things like that. That would be one. Another one would be, oh, my parents never fought, so they hold all their things in, and nothing ever gets resolved because they never seen their parents fight. Things like that. Those are subconscious expectations of how a relationship should be by what is uh, modeled in front of them when they're little. And like I said, you don't even know you're thinking these things or you have these expectations. You're just, this is how life is, or this is how love is, or things like that until you become more self aware and more, this is how I want things to be. But by default, you're probably going off of what you grew up with.
Mhm.
That, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Um, Something that rang really true for me was one of the things on here. Rather than communicating with your spouse or others, you might simply dismiss the importance of an unmet expectation, settle for less, and miss out on the opportunity to work towards something together, work towards something better together. You can also have unmet expectations of yourself that cause frustration and tempt you to withdraw from your spouse. Yeah, it was a wonderful, challenging conversation for me because I didn't, and like you said, us growing up, there was a lot of conflict and fighting and stuff, and I absolutely, so it could go one way or the other, like, oh, okay, this is
Right.
how I grew up, this is how it is, or this is how I grew up, I absolutely do not want that, so we do not fight ever because I won't go there.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Did you know that? When did you realize that?
When did well, I mean, I knew that. I thought it was like a bad, like, for 16 years we had never had a fight. Like, how is that possible? But I thought we resolved conflict. Why? Fine. We'd communicate. We'd discuss
Yeah.
things, and then if it got heated, I would just drop it. So it's not that I didn't express my thoughts or feelings, but
Okay.
if it got heated, I wouldn't pursue it. I'd just concede, give in, drop it because I didn't want to go there. But that's not healthy.
And bring it up at a different time when the p- the parties involved are not in their emotions, or
No.
not. You drop it and it wouldn't be brought up again.
Well, one thing we learned, we cannot talk about politics. That always got heated. And I just don't need to go there. Like if I
Mhm.
can't have a rational conversation with someone about something, then I'm just not going to talk about it.
Mhm.
So conditioned over time, I suppose, to not bring
Okay.
up hot topics. Yeah. But
Yeah, and that could be. That doesn't even have to be relationships. That could just be with
people,
particular people. Yeah, knowing. I guess that would be more of like boundaries. Uh, Setting your own boundaries of I won't go there because I don't want to uh, have this kind of relationship where we're always bickering. And it, like I said, it doesn't have to be a
yeah,
romantic relationship. It could just be your coworker, or your sister,
yeah,
or your brother, or your parents. Yeah. And they say those topics are very touchy, and I don't know why, but politics and religion,
yeah.
um, I guess people are just very set in their ways, and not open minded to have a lot of people. I'm not singling anyone out. There's lots of people that are like, no, this is the only way. And where I used to think that way too. Uh, I want to say until mm 2019, I started exploring other things, and I realized there's a whole other world, and not even a whole other world. Like there's so many, like, I need to open my mind, and I need to open my uh, atmosphere. I don't know the right description, but I need to open my world to, like, not live in this little bubble, and there's way more things out there. And it has so it I don't get offended when people say th- certain things about those subjects, because that's their thing, and that's what works for them.
Right.
But before, I would be like, that's not right, but I don't think that way anymore.
I I feel invigorated by it. I love to talk with people who think differently than me because how could you think that? What like explain that to me. I'm right, you're wrong. Tell me. How could you
Wow.
I do love hearing other people's perspectives, especially as like I said, especially if it's different than mine because I don't think in whatever the topic is on along those lines. So to hear other
Yeah,
people and why they think like that, how they think like that, I do love those discussions myself.
that's keeping an open mind. I
Yeah,
mean, to
I have an open mind.
yeah. Other expectations, though, I mean, that those are just a couple, but a lot is just like in life. So, like, I think we were talking about it before, just me and you, of like your. Okay, I have a great example. So, for my birthday this year, I mentioned we went to a pumpkin patch, but I wanted to go to one that was in the mountains, because a couple years ago we went, and it was like I had no expectations. I never been there,
Mm,
and it was great. I had a blast. It was just me and my family, and we were there, and I had a great time. So this year I wanted to do that, and we eventually did go. It wasn't for my birthday, but we eventually did go, and I had expectations of how it should be, instead of just going and just,
enjoying it.
this is a completely different time. Yeah. Uh, and I had a good time, but it was not like the last time. There was like 10 times more people there than the last time. Uh, you couldn't even like find parking. We had to walk up the mountain to get to this place, which is okay, but I don't work out, so I was tired.
Are we there yet?
And
Are we there yet?
yeah. uh, so even expectations like that, you have in your head how things should be. And I think if we have expectations, different than goals, but if we have expectations, we're always going to get disappointed because life is life and it always is. It is what it is. It just is. And we expect certain things and well, we will get disappointed. So I had to reframe my thoughts when I was there and it's like, stop comparing. This is great right now. You're with your family. We're here. Um, it's happening, all those things. And where else would you want to be? No, nowhere else. I'm where I want to be. I want to be with my family and we're here. So I'm safe, everything's fine, all those reframing things that I do. And I ended up having a great time, but I started off like, this is not like how it was last time. And it could have, if I let myself go that way, then I just would have been, they wouldn't have wanted to hang out with me that day. I wouldn't have been pleasant to be around, but I reframed and it was a great time. So even that, even just expectations of things
It,
like that,
a
you're gonna
lot
get disappointed.
of a lot of our conversations that we've had, and that is so true that okay, so you have an expectation about how like it could go, you can have a negative expectation as well. So like, oh, I'm going to go do this and everything
True.
will go wrong, and you just have a negative expectation, and what happens? Seek and you shall find. As you're expecting something to go wrong, expecting to go to Thanksgiving and there's going to be fights about politics and religion, or there's going to be discord, or problems or tension, you're kind of perpetuating it and bringing it to you as well, so you can have negative expectation and make it a reality because that's what you're putting out there and attracting back to you. So yeah.
Very true. Very true. Like in the mornings, we talked about this before. I tell my son, it's gonna be a great day. We're gonna have a good day at school. I'm gonna have a good day at work. No, no, it's not. Okay, then it's
Right.
not because you're going in expecting it to be not good. Um, that's true, Desiree. I'm glad you made that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so you gotta be careful with what you wish for too.
Right. What
uh,
my expectations are, I'm just not one to expect much, and I live my life super grateful and happy, like wow, this is, you just never know. I think maybe I've just experienced too much life, whereas you just never know what's going to happen with life. That, um, yeah, because when you expect something to be some way and it doesn't measure up, then you're disappointed. And such a great example about the pumpkin patch. It was a great time, different than what you expected from what you had, but you're able to change that around, and all this mind work
yeah.
is a process. It's
It
good.
is.
Well worth
It
it.
is a lot of resetting. And I do it all the time because I can easily sit with the default and the bad and I'd just be miserable. So it is intentionally directing, yes. But it changes everything and it makes things better and
Mhm.
I wouldn't have it any other way, but I say it like it's so simple and I have had lots and lots of therapy and um I listen to podcasts all day all the time about reframing your mind and spirituality and all kinds of things that I'm just always trying to be better, do better, help myself. So um I'm saying this meaning it's not easy. It is a task, but I much rather live that way than let my thoughts take over me and just be sad all the time, because I've done that too long,
Mm.
way too long.
I was just
I'm
gonna
over it.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was just gonna say, if you are in the process of reframing your mind, it is very hard, and keep doing it and it will pay off, because just
Mhm.
like any new habit, any new thing, it takes repetition and practice, and
Yeah,
it is well worth it.
it is.
But it's
I
difficult because your default thinking, if you're always expecting, oh, I know, I have some friends that have really low self confidence and anxiety, and that's just, they go into situations and they just are very timid, or oh, they're not going to like me, or, and if they're expecting that it's that mind switch of like looking in the mirror, pumping yourself up, telling yourself your daily affirmations, thinking about things in a different way, and
Mhm.
practicing that over and over and over again, and it's worth the hard work. But at first, it's very hard work. Yes.
Yes, yes, I agree. You made me think of something, and I don't even know if it's related, but you made me think of something that happened at work today. Somebody told me, they asked me a question, but they said it on behalf of someone. And this is the second time this week of me being asked a question by someone on behalf of someone else.
The
And
same
I'm like,
person is someone else.
no, and it's not the same person. And
Interesting.
it's two different people coming up to me with a question. So it's not even like the same,
Yeah. Person
like,
either way. Uh-huh.
yeah, two different people asking on behalf of two different people. And I, s- it made me really, really rethink me and what am I putting out there? Like you're saying, what am uh, I do suffer. I still do. And I don't want to say the word suffer, but I have, the thing they call,
The-
imposter syndrome.
yeah.
And, we talked about it before. So I, I wouldn't think that would make people. I don't know. Or maybe I'm taking it too personal. I don't know, but it did make me self-reflect and wonder why. But my response to that was not. I was like, why are people? I said this to the person asking. I said, why can't people just come up to me and ask me? I'm a nice person. I did. I said it. I was just like, what is going on? Um, and then she's like, well, I'm sorry. I was like, okay, I'm kidding. Like, but really, why? And it did. It made me, what am I putting out there? If I'm thinking certain things about myself, I may be putting something out there that I have no idea I am. And for two people that come up to me and ask me a question on behalf of someone else,
In the same
it
week.
really opened up my, huh?
In the same week.
In the same week, it really,
Hmm.
I have some self-reflecting to do. And maybe,
I'm so
yeah.
glad you brought. I had a situation. I was not even going to talk about this on our podcast, but we're sister confessions here, and this is where our conversation's going. I love that you shared that, because it is so important to be mindful and reflect on ourselves. And um okay, what do I want to share about this? So um maybe like a month or two ago, I had a discussion with my counselor about work situations, that like in new work situations, I kind of sit back, because I know that I have a very strong personality, And so I kind of like assess dynamics. I think that's a very natural social thing to do. You kind of see where people are. I'm very outgoing. I joke around maybe too much. I'm super positive, which can irritate people. So I'm just like, I realize that about myself. I know that about myself. And so in new work situations, a few years ago, there was this woman who started, and she was very insecure. And I toned myself down because I didn't want to make her feel more insecure. I don't know. I was just like kind of gauging how to work with someone new. And she was like, my counselor was like, never dim your light for someone else. And I'm like, I'm not dimming my light. I feel like I'm just
Adjusting to
yeah, kind of assessing.
the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually kind of gotten into a little bit of a disagreement about it because she was insistent I not dim my light, and I was insistent I wasn't dimming my light. I would that it's a natural thing because I can be a, a big personality that I'm aware of. I love to make short stories long. I'm so sorry. Bear with me. So there was a situation at work today, and my supervisor had sent out a directive. This needs to be done by the end of the month, and I'm like, why does this need to be done? Like it, and so I teamsed her, and I was like, I don't mean to question you. I'll have it done, but it just doesn't make sense why it needs to. Can you just explain to me why does it need to be done by the end of the month? It just doesn't make sense. And then I felt bad. I'm like, okay, am I like being too assertive? Am I, because I have this in the back of my mind, should I not do that? So I addressed it with her. I love my supervisor. We have a great relationship. And I was like, it's probably TMI, but I'm in counseling and, and working on, self-reflection. And I felt bad. I wasn't trying to undermine you. I was just, and I hope it didn't come across that way. I was just trying to understand why. And so she ended up following up with other people and then changing the date. And she was like, it makes sense what you're saying. It did not have to be by the end of the month. We have more time to do it. And so maybe we'll just cut out this whole thing because it really doesn't even matter. But I'm thinking about self-reflection because I'm
Yeah.
worried that I can come across very overbearing or too assertive. And when I asked my supervisor, I wanted to clear the air, and she was like, I'm really glad you said that because when you said that, it made sense. And so I appreciate that. So I don't know, this self-reflection stuff it's hard, but it's necessary.
It is. It is if you want to grow and you want to, yeah, if you want to grow, like that was good that you did that. And then after you did that, you're like, well, let me tell you.
Yes.
And then she was able to say, hey, yeah, and I've done that a few times at work recently of, hey, we talked about this, but I don't, because I did after my I speak to people. I think how did they receive that, or what was, I do that a lot. I think a lot of people do that, but I don't know if they go and approach the person afterwards. And I also don't know if that may be a good idea or not. But I did, and I said, hey, I was the intent of me saying that was for this. I hope I didn't. If I came off this way, I'm sorry, but that was not my intent. My intent was this. And the feedback was good. They said no. I took it the way that you intended, and good. But it and maybe it wasn't, and they just said that. But then I cleared the air.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So I think it's good to, and then they see that you care and you think about things, and you're not just walking around throwing up words. Because a lot of people do that too, and then you're like, oh, they're not even in tune with what they're saying, or
And also about addressing the issue, I think that that's where big conflicts can start, or assumptions or expectations circling back around. But we can, have these interactions and then go back later and be like, oh, this or that. But if we don't address it with a person, we're just making assumptions about how they took it or how they received it or how we were portrayed or what. Unless if we
Yes.
actually do talk with that person to, and those are uncomfortable they can be uncomfortable conversations, but it's so important to get on the same page. And um otherwise we're just assuming, like, oh, they hate me. If in a few weeks, if I would have said something and my supervisor would have been sure with me and be like, oh my gosh, it was probably from that time that I said,
Yes.
like, and then it just
Yes.
snowballs. And yeah.
Exactly. And then your relationship will be strained, and
For what?
then someone will have a resentment of someone else, and it may not even, maybe you think she has a resentment of you and she doesn't,
Right.
and maybe she just dropped her coffee that morning and you have no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we sort of went off the top of the expectations, but I wanted to put it out there because it just happened,
Huh.
and
I'm glad
this
you.
is sister confession. So um, yeah, I I do self reflect a lot, and that's just what I do now. Do any of you guys do that? Do you think about what you talked about with people throughout the day, and do you address it the next day, or do you just think and let it stir and bubble up inside, and then you have a relationship with someone that you don't even like, it's not even the actual relationship because it's in your head? Do any of you guys do that? Because I do, and
Confess.
Desiree does.
Confess in the comments, please.
Yes.
Confess if you address it or not.
Yes. um but for expectations, I think I need to work on that myself. Of I'm doing all this work, right? But as far as expectation goes, I think I have a lot of subconscious expectations that I don't realize, and which causes frustration that I may have, that if it was never talked about or never discussed, then it shouldn't be an expectation. It should be a discussion. I remember one time, I'm gonna go way back. Someone I used to date. I I was in therapy then too, but it was for a different matter, and I was complaining about this person that I was dating at the time. I would be like, he was unfaithful, and she said, well, did you guys agree to not date anyone else? And I was like, well, I'm his girlfriend. She's like, yeah, but did you have that conversation? And it really like blew my mind that she asked me that, because I'm his girlfriend. So of course we're not seeing other people. But actually that's my expectation in my head of that's how relationships should be. And I think a lot of people think that way, but there are people that if there's no actual conversation about it, I could be his girlfriend and he could probably have five other girlfriends because of how he grew up. Like it was never a discussion. And so even like something minor like that, assumptions of how things should be or expectations is like, if it's not discussed, then
The other person doesn't know. It's not out there.
yeah, they can't
You
read your
say,
mind. They don't know what your upbringing is or what you think how a relationship should be. They have their own. And yeah, it blew my mind. It really like those explosions of the head, memes or emojis or whatever they are. That really happened to me when she asked me that. I got mad at first. I was like, "How can you ask me that?" Of course, but and then I started thinking about it. I was like, "Wow." no, we never talked about it. I didn't think
No.
it needed to be talked about. That's how it is. But
Right. Right.
everyone's comes from different walks of life, and everyone's idea of a relationship is from whatever it is. And if you don't discuss it, they're gonna go off of their um however they think it is, and you're gonna think however it is. And yeah, you were gonna say something, but I was just like blown away about this.
Well, I don't know, you said something minor like that, but I feel like that's a major thing, but like it's an assumption. Like it's just like, of course. And that's the point, that not necessarily, of course. That's the point.
Yeah,
Of course my husband's going to take out the trash. Why would he take it? Like that
yeah,
might not mean anything to him. He's like, well, when I grew up, my mom took out the trash. Go take out the trash. Or just those things that you don't
yeah,
really think to discuss. I think probably a big thing about expectations is parenting also. Who's going to do what? Expectations on how you guys are going to discipline, handle situations. I think a lot of those things, it just, some people even never talk about it, but you talk
yeah.
about it after the fact because, you know,
Something happened.
mm,
Yeah, I'm right there. I haven't sat down with my husband and said, "This is how I want my kids raised. Our kids. This isn't this. This is the type of thing I want them and to be raised, and with these rules." And we haven't had that discussion. And we do have just disagreements. That's not the right word I was going to say. We do have different views on how things should be,
right.
and yeah, that discussion does still need to be had,
Yeah.
especially now they're little, but they're growing up fast. So that needs to be had, and other things. Just like I said, I don't want to sit and like these are the rules or there. It's not any of that. It's just my ideal relationship is this. What's your ideal relationship,
Exactly.
or things like that. A conversation that is. I've never had that in any of my relationships.
Well, here's some tips coming straight from the Re-engage book. What is one reoccurring sore spot in marriage or any relationship where you have different expectations and don't communicate about it well? Um, how do you typically react when your expectations are not met? How has your spouse exceeded your expectations? I think with all of these hard conversations, we need some positive in there too.
Yes.
And what parts of life do you generally have different expectations than your spouse? That was an interesting conversation because I mean it is, these are my expectations in life, just in general. What are your expectations? And
Yeah.
they were very different. And it's good to know that, like to have that conversation about it. Yeah. Those conversations are super helpful and something we had never talked about or thought about until we went through this course because I don't know, it just we never fought. There was no issues
Yeah.
to hash out, but those things are important to get on the same page and figure it out.
Yes. And you mentioned before about never having a fight, and I don't think never having a fight is not bad. Disagreements should happen. If you never had a disagreement, that's a whole other thing. But meaning there should be disagreements because you're two different people who were raised by by other families. Like you're coming from completely different upbringings. Um, so I disagreements, of course, but and discussions, of course, but fighting doesn't need to happen. It should be a healthy disagreement and discussion.
Yeah.
And if it does get heated, then you stopping it, I think, is great. But pausing it,
Circle back
not stopping
around.
it.
Yeah.
Pausing, coming, yeah. So when you're both cooled down. Um, so when you drop it, you don't drop it for good and saying, "Oh, I'll just never bring this up." It would be like, okay, well, so for politics, uh, okay, this topic, clearly I'm on this side and you're on this side, so why don't we agree to not go there with each other, so that you both set a boundary versus just dropping it, so it's
Well,
a
that was our
healthy
boundary. We
boundary.
didn't go with each other, and we just didn't talk about it. We agreed to disagree, and that was that.
Oh, good,
Yeah. We're like,
good, yeah,
we agree to
and
disagree.
that's fine as long as it's discussed.
Yep.
Boundaries, yes,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad. Do you have anything else on expectations?
Oh, you know what? Yes. Expectations can evolve and change over time. Should evolve and change over time, I think. As we grow, as we change. In relationships, you know, get you start a relationship as a different person. Hopefully, we're always evolving and changing and growing, and you have different expectations of yourself and experiences in the life around you. So I think it should be a continual discussion. Oh, I have something else to say about that, but thoughts about that? About expectations should change, will change, and to continue that conversation.
Um, it did bring up a memory I had of this my past relationship where we were in the car and he said, "Don't ever change," and I grabbed onto that,
Oh,
and I
he
was
loves me.
like,
Yeah, he really
"Yes,
loves me.
yes, yes." I like, and then later on, we were together and we get older and he's like, "You've changed." And that was like my heart broke,
Mm.
like shattered. And because I heard that you don't ever change, and then you've changed, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm I'm a failure." But what you said made me think of that, because like we're supposed to change. I can't be the same person I am when I'm 20, when I'm 30, or else you're not growing as a person. So yeah, that is true. And expectations change too. Exactly. You grow as a person, your expectations change, everything evolves of where you are at in life. And so yes, it should be a conversation, a continual conversation you have with yourself and your relationships, expectations. Yes.
I feel like I was just gonna say something, but I didn't write it down, and so what was I gonna say about that? They evolve, we evolve,
We
expectations
evolve.
will evolve as we
Yes.
grow, and yeah, I'll remember once we stop recording. Like, it was profound. So sorry, everyone. It was like the highlight of the episode, and I forgot.
We'll bring it up next week.
Hey, next
By
week,
the way,
yes, we have an exciting episode next week. Number 20. Everyone tune in, share with your friends. It's exciting.
yes,
We're looking forward to it.
yes,
Those are my thoughts with expectations. It was a super hard, challenging conversation for me, or concept,
mhm.
and that's that.
It is. It's not. I don't think anyone. I don't. Not anyone. I don't think a lot of people sit and think of that, and then have a conversation with their people. It I mean, expectations of being a parent, expectations of what I expect from my children, like
We've
things
worked.
like that. Like these, I don't think it's it's just in your head, and then you get disappointed and mad all the time when things don't work out the way you think they should. It should be a discussion always to all the people involved in
Yes.
your life that you love.
Yeah, that's our challenge to you guys is to think about different, like your close relationships in life. What are your expectations of them, and is that a discussion that you should have? And also expectations of ourselves. I feel like I'm constantly letting myself down. I have high expectations that I do not meet daily. So that's a whole, I mean, I guess that kind of goes in with goals, but what do we expect from ourselves? I know one of my husband's expectations of me that I do not meet his expectations is he likes me to do things promptly. I am a procrastinator and do not do things promptly. I'm pro at that. So I told him in this conversation where I'm like, I know that bothers you that I don't do things promptly, and but it would be the worst thing if he was like, Desiree, you need to do this and I expect that it's done by Friday. Like how you talk about things matter, words matter. So you might have an
No, yeah.
expectation, but we don't want to talk about it in like a demeaning or demanding way, but to share like, hey, it would be really important to me if you handled this week, this needs to get done or whatever. Like there are ways to go about it. So expressing your expectations in a loving way, not I expect, because doesn't that feel kind of like, or maybe I just have problems with authority, I don't know, but if someone came to me and told me I expect something, I think
I
I would.
wouldn't like it.
You wouldn't like it.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Don't you think it's what you say too? Well, I expect that this be that's like
No, no, it's how you say it. So you can say your expectations without using that.
oh, different words. Yeah, saying it with
Yeah,
love and kindness.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, side note.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up because we're saying have these conversations and
About
then
expectations, but it could be said in a loving way.
gently, yeah,
Yeah, it's important to have these
y-
conversations.
yes.
Mhm.
Thank you, Desiree. That was good. All right. So tune in next week. We do have a special episode planned. So I'll see you guys then.
All right.
Take care, Desiree.
Love you.
I love you. Bye.